Howdy folks, quick update. Literally try and keep this within about 3 to 5 minutes. Let's have a look at stocks quickly. This is an update pre-market. It's about an hour, half an hour really before the market's open, hour and a half. This is the NASDAQ. It's interesting that we're seeing the spike high through the 61.8% Fibonacci level. We saw exactly the same thing in 2022. This retracement here after the drop from the all-time highs was exactly at the 618 Fib. And it just spiked a little bit through it like we're seeing right now. So are we going to see a top here? I don't know. It's very difficult. We've got this sort of blowout top. We've broken up through two rising wedges, which is really quite phenomenal. We've broken up through this major resistance level here and the 50% fib, spiked up through the 618. Let's see if we can find a move down from here. And just looking at the S&P, we've got this downward sort of sloping channel, I suppose. It's a little bit iffy because I've just really drawn it using a rough area at the bottom here and then drawn it from the tops and sort of mimic the slope at the bottom. But you can see we've come up to this megaphone top. We didn't quite reach it. I'd like to be selling into 42, 50, 60, 70, 80, somewhere around there at the top of this megaphone, but we've got this sort of iffy downward sloping trend line. We did clear out this area here. We got rid of some of those short positions, made some more space, grabbed some more liquidity up the top there, and we're just beginning to fall down along with the NASDAQ today. So overall, actually, if you zoom out, that picture looks like it could be pretty good for a top. I don't trust these markets though. We've got some resistance levels above us that we could still try to reach up into. And I'd still like to see a touch of that megaphone top. And that would be today at around about 42.50 or 60. But by the time we get there, if we kind of edge higher, we might get as high as 42.80. And if it takes as long as in towards the end of next month and towards the end of June, we could get up to 43.20. That would be a much better level to sell into. Imagine if we meet that green resistance line and that megaphone top. So we're either going to get up there, 43.20, or we're going to turn around here. I don't know which one it's going to be. Who knows? So we've got potential for the NASDAQ to move down from where we are right now. And we've got potential for the S&P to move down. Whether these would be short-lived moves down or longer-term moves back down into support and maybe the beginning of a new bear move, I don't know. Let's have a look at NVDA and Apple quickly. Those are two interesting ones today. NVIDIA, we've got a potential abandoned baby. You can see the pre-market price is right down here, forming a gap where the previous gap was between yesterday and the previous candle. And we've just moved down, filled that gap, and in pre-market, we're actually at the bottom of that gap. So if we open up here in about an hour's time and then continue to move down into this much larger gap, the earnings gap, then we will have an abandoned baby, and there's potential for NVIDIA to move much lower down, perhaps all the way back down to where this really should be at around about the 300 to the 320 level, which is where this very extended upward trend ends up, and where we could actually begin the real downward move after having got rid of that ridiculous blowout top. So we'll have to see how that looks. Now, let's go across to currencies very quickly. And currencies, I'm not too sure about. I've got the euro against the dollar, the pound, the dollar yen, and the Aussie dollar against the US dollar. That one's quite evident. We were selling this sort of on this channel break. We haven't traded that for a while. But the euro and the pound looking a little bit weak. I don't know whether we're going to hold here. I think we're going to have to wait towards the end of this week. Thursday, we've got the jobs report. Friday, we've got the non-farm payrolls job report and the unemployment number. So we'll have to see how that affects the market. There's not much happening until then, so we might have a fairly subdued market overall, including currencies. But we still got this support level on the euro that we're sort of bouncing around. Yesterday's candle actually dipped beneath that support level and closed strongly back above it. Today we've dipped down. We haven't had a close today yet. We might close above that line again today. Let's wait and see until tomorrow. So nothing on the euro really, and the pound is a similar story. We're just sort of moving down into that trend line support, and there's the 100-day moving average right at that trend line. And once again, that red horizontal support line, yesterday we didn't close beneath it, we closed strongly above it. Today we've dipped back beneath it, but let's see how today closes. We might well close above it again today after sort of bouncing off this trend line. So I think let's leave those two alone for the moment, but the ones I'm interested in are the yen pairs. And we've seen the dollar yen and the euro yen and the pound yen, Aussie yen, in fact all the yen pairs just coming off. And we've been short these pairs and we remain short in them. And it seems to be contrary to what everyone expects, that the yen should exhibit further weakness against the other currencies. But I'm not too sure about that for a number of reasons. Yesterday we had an emergency meeting with the Bank of Japan and their Ministry of Finance talking about currencies and various other financial matters. And that seemed to spook the markets a bit and start to put some fire back into the yen. We saw the yen strengthen against everything. I don't know whether these moves are going to continue downwards, i.e. the yen continue to strengthen. But let's see. So far so good, and we're short across the board here. We'll have to see what happens. Gold. Now, I was short gold on the break of this trend line. It now looks like it may have been a false break beneath there, And after yesterday's close, we got out of that short and we've now reversed to long. I think perhaps this trend line and this green support line might hold. We may not even get a dip down to 1900 or 1880 or 1850 like we hoped. However, if the gold price does move below yesterday's low, I'll look to hedge this position and then look to rebuy on dips down to 1900, 1880 or 1850, somewhere in that region. So that's the strategy on gold. Uranium, URA, we remain long despite the break of that little short-term trend line. I'm still looking for support at around about 1860 to 1850 to hold. We'll have to see how that goes, but we've got a big area of support and demand down here in these $17 to $18 regions, so we'll have to see how that goes, but we remain long on that. Let's have a very quick look at the commodities and Bitcoin. Bitcoin we're short on. We were short right from sort of around about 28,000. We're now at around 27,000. We're looking for a move down to 24,500 and maybe 23,000 on Bitcoin. Those levels of support are pretty evident. So we're looking for a move down to this first Fibonacci level. That's the 38.2% fib at around about 25,000, maybe 2450, and then we're looking for a potential move even lower into some of these other Fibonacci levels and previous support levels. I think this level here, the 0.618% fib at around 21,400 looks like a really good area, but it may be that this move will reverse somewhere between 23 and 24,000 and then continue back upwards to test the underside of this channel line from underneath. Natural gas, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I've just done a good video on that one, but we're just holding above that support level and this rising channel line. So far so good. Yesterday's rejection from there was pretty firm. Today we've just slumped back down a wee bit down to that channel line. We'll have to see if that holds. But my strategy for natural gas is outlined in the previous video. I'll put a link to that at the end of this one. And WTI, this is going to be an interesting one. We came back and tested the underside of this channel and the price got rejected from there. We fell back down through the support at around about $70. We're now down at $67. Whether we can hold above these spike highs or not, I don't know. I think we probably will, but I'd like to see a sharp rejection from around about $67 to $66 today, a move back up to that red line at about $70, a retest of that from underneath, and a failure of that line to prevent the price from moving higher and for the price to move back up, and then sequentially test this channel line, this downward trend line, the top of the channel line, and then a breakout through there up towards the $90 and $100 levels. Well, that's the overall roundup for today, folks. It's a bit of a tricky day, but so far so good for some of our trades, some of them not so great, like WTI and natural gas. I'm actually looking to add more longs to natural gas, so a breakdown below this channel line won't faze me too much. It's something that I'm rather looking forward to. Have a fantastic trading day. If you've enjoyed this content, please give the video a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing.